So if you have questions about Glenallachie 15, then this video is for you. We're going to review it, which will include a taste testing. We're going to take a look at the color, the nose, and we're going to give it a score at the end of the video. Stick around. So Glenallachie 15 is a Speyside single malt whiskey. Some may wonder, what does Glenallachie actually mean? Well, it's a loose translation, which means from the Valley of the Rocks. There's a river that runs close to the distillery from which they source their water. Billy Walker, who is a world-renowned master distiller, has been instrumental in revitalizing the Glenallachie brand. So what they've been doing under his watch is basically taking the old whiskey that Glenallachie had prior to his ownership and kind of just repurposing it, like putting it in new barrels and really just finishing the whiskey. Now it's finished in sherry butts from they're Pedro Jimenez and Oloroso sherry butts. And you can really tell because this whiskey is really something else. Let's get into it. And if you notice, the color is like a burnt copper, very rich looking. So the legs on this are just amazing. And you can see the teardrops on the side of that glass. Very oily, very viscous. That's usually a sign of a good whiskey. So let's nose it and taste it and talk about it. Let's go to the nose on this one. Man, just a lot of stuff going on right off the bat. Like dark fruit flavors. Chocolate covered cherries, cocoa powder, chocolate covered oranges, like orange peel, baking spices, and that sherry. I mean, my gosh, it is just so powerful in this one. This one is finished in Oloroso and PX Jimenez sherry casks, sherry butts, I should say. There is a little bit of a dustiness to it, like I guess I could say, if I had to describe it, kind of like an old leather-bound book, Ron Burgundy. But I mean, seriously, that's what it reminds me of. And it's interesting with Glenallachie 15 or Glenallachie period, what they're trying to do over there, like I mentioned earlier, is take the old whiskey that they inherited and really kick it up a notch. So they've refinished some of these whiskeys. I'm not sure about the 12 and the other ones in their core range, but I know for sure on this one, they've done some work to it. I think this is kind of a polarizing whiskey in the online whiskey community, Scotch specifically. Some people like what they're doing, some people don't. But in my mind, you got to trust Billy Walker. I mean, the guy is world-renowned. You know, he's a master distiller and he's won just about every award. The dude's a genius. Bottoms up. That is delicious. 46% ABV. It lets you know it's there. There's some roughness around the edges of this one. It's not perfect. I've seen online where some people call it a flawless whiskey. I'm not too sure about that. I'm picking up a little bit of bitterness in the back end, but right away, sweet, deep, rich fruit flavors. Chocolate almond, orange peel, coffee, vanilla, oak, spice, and all those flavors are just concentrated and very, very pronounced. The oak is there. The drying mouthfeel from the tannins become evident. This one is hot. It is, but man, I enjoy it, especially on a cold winter day like what we're having today. I'm gonna pour a little bit more and add some water I have sitting off camera to this. We'll see if it calms it down a little bit and opens it up. All right, just H2O. I need to get one of those fancy little water droppers that aficionados have. Just a little bit. There we go. Give that a swirl. Calms the nose down for sure. It gets rid of the alcohol vapors. I would say there's a little pancake syrup now. I think the chocolate notes have kind of calmed down with that water. The sherry notes are smoother. It kind of takes the edge off. Let's taste it. Oh wow, completely different. Usually, I am not a fan of adding water to a higher proof Scotch, especially a nice sherried Scotch. I'm usually one to advocate for higher alcohol volume. But in this case, I will say that it took the edge off. It made it more balanced. Just go back and taste again, just to be sure. It's science. Yeah, it opens it up a little bit to new flavors. Like I mentioned, that syrupy flavor, pancake syrup and butter. Still a great dram for a cold day. I like what they're doing at Glenallachie. I think once they get their own whiskey out that hasn't been tampered with, that's, you know, the inherited whiskey, I think it's gonna be wonderful. Now let's go ahead and give this guy a score. Our parameters for scoring are availability, taste, and value. MSRP on this one is about $110 US. I've been able to find it pretty easily in my market. And the value, I mean, for a 15-year-old with 46% ABV and with Billy Walker being involved, I think the value is great. Overall, on a 0 through 10 scale, 0 being bad, 10 being excellent, I'm gonna go with an 8 on this one. I think it's phenomenal. I can't wait to see what Glenallachie does in the future. Hey, if you don't mind, before you leave, go ahead and like, subscribe, and smash that bell. Helps this channel out a lot and helps me bring you more whiskey content. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. We'll see you next time.